I didn't make this choice. Life. I hope to God I go day by day, hour by hour out here.
It's horrible out here. It's the worst place to be. I don't want to do this. This is how I want to spend the rest of my life.
Imagine waking up every day without a roof over your head, struggling through the scorching Arizona heat with no safe place to rest. For thousands in this state, this is reality. Behind every statistic is a person, a mother, a veteran, a senior, each with a story of loss and resilience. Today, we bring you these stories, shining a light on the forgotten faces of Arizona's homelessness crisis. If these stories move you, please hit the like button to show your support. Share this video to raise awareness among your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real stories and updates. Together, we can help bring hope and change to those in need. Homelessness rising in Arizona. The homeless crisis in Arizona is reaching alarming levels. As of early 2025, approximately 13,500 people are experiencing homelessness across the state, a staggering 23% increase in just 2 years. Even more concerning, over 60% of these individuals are unsheltered, forced to sleep outdoors in harsh conditions. Phoenix, the state's largest city, bears the brunt of this crisis. With more than 7,500 people living on the streets, many face extreme daytime temperatures soaring above 110 degrees Fahrenheit, around 43 degrees Celsius. Imagine enduring that kind of heat with no safe place to rest or recover. How would you cope? Arizona's growth rate of homelessness has outpaced much larger states like Texas and New York, signaling a regional shift in this nationwide issue. Experts warn that without urgent intervention, the number of homeless in Arizona could surpass 16,000 by 2026. So what's driving this rapid increase? Understanding the root causes is essential if we want to find real solutions. In the next section, we'll dive into the underlying factors fueling this crisis, from soaring housing costs to gaps in social support systems. Stay with us as we unpack the complex reasons behind the numbers. Housing crisis in Arizona. Pressures and barriers. The homelessness crisis in Arizona is driven by a complex set of economic and policy factors that have converged to make affordable housing increasingly out of reach for many residents. One of the primary causes is the sharp rise in housing costs, especially rent, which has far outpaced stagnant wages. While rents have skyrocketed, incomes for most workers have barely budged, leaving thousands trapped in a financial squeeze with little room for unexpected expenses. A critical shortage of affordable housing compounds the problem. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, Arizona is currently short by approximately 270,000 rental units that are affordable and available to extremely low-income households. This staggering deficit forces many families and individuals to compete for an extremely limited supply of safe, affordable homes, pushing some into precarious living situations or onto the streets. Outdated zoning laws and land use regulations further restrict the development of diverse housing options. Many suburban areas, which are growing rapidly, maintain rules that limit the construction of multifamily buildings or income-restricted housing. These policies, originally designed to preserve neighborhood character and manage infrastructure demands, now stand as barriers preventing creative housing solutions like modular homes, accessory dwelling units, or tiny houses that could alleviate shortages. In addition to these local challenges, federal funding cuts have also played a significant role. Over recent years, particularly during the Trump administration, the Department of Housing and Urban Development faced steep budget reductions totaling billions of dollars. These cuts slashed resources for housing vouchers and community development programs, directly impacting the availability of assistance for vulnerable populations. Moreover, many housing support programs have become conditional, requiring recipients to meet strict sobriety or behavioral standards before receiving aid. While intended to encourage personal accountability, these criteria often create additional hurdles, effectively excluding many people who need help the most. All these factors combine to deepen the crisis of homelessness in Arizona, making it harder for individuals and families to find stable shelter and rebuild their lives. Next, it's important to understand who is most affected by this crisis. The homeless population in Arizona is diverse, with certain groups facing unique vulnerabilities and challenges that deserve focused attention. Arizona's most vulnerable. Faces of homelessness. The crisis of homelessness in Arizona affects a wide range of people, but some groups are particularly vulnerable and bear the brunt of this growing epidemic. Among those hardest hit are seniors over the age of 60, who now make up more than 20% of the homeless population in the state. Many of these older adults once had stable housing and income, but rising rents and fixed incomes that no longer stretch far enough have pushed them onto the streets or into makeshift shelters. Single women, especially mothers fleeing abusive relationships, form another significant portion of the unhoused. These women often face impossible choices: remain in dangerous homes or risk homelessness for themselves and their children. Over 40% of homeless women in Arizona report that escaping domestic violence was the primary reason they lost stable housing. It's a sobering reality that not all homeless individuals are without work. Many employed people, such as rideshare drivers, warehouse workers, and janitors, are unable to keep up with soaring rent costs. The gap between stagnant wages and skyrocketing housing prices leaves thousands living paycheck to paycheck, with no safety net to catch them if an unexpected expense arises. Young people, particularly LGBTQ+ youth, face heightened risks as well. Rejected by families, often without identification or support systems, they find themselves navigating hazardous environments alone. This demographic is one of the fastest growing among those experiencing homelessness in Arizona. Additionally, Native Americans are disproportionately represented in homeless shelters and encampments. Decades of systemic discrimination and limited access to essential services have left many indigenous individuals especially vulnerable to housing insecurity. These groups are not isolated statistics. They are neighbors, friends, and family members caught in a complex web of economic hardship, social challenges, and systemic failures. As the homeless population continues to rise, understanding who is affected sheds light on the urgency of the crisis. However, recognizing the people behind the numbers is only the first step. The next question is whether the current support systems in Arizona are equipped to meet this escalating demand, and where those systems fall short. Challenges in Arizona's homelessness support system. Arizona's support system for people experiencing homelessness is under significant strain, revealing deep structural challenges that hinder effective assistance. Existing housing programs and social services are overwhelmed, with waiting lists stretching for months, sometimes years. For many individuals and families, accessing stable shelter is a distant hope rather than an immediate solution. Nonprofit organizations, which serve as frontline responders to the crisis, face chronic funding shortages. Operating on tight budgets, many struggle to meet the growing demand for emergency shelter, meals, and medical care. Delays in grant disbursements and staffing shortages further limit their capacity, forcing some to scale back or pause essential services despite rising needs. The expansion of Medicaid in Arizona has opened important doors, allowing more unhoused individuals access to mental health and addiction treatment services. However, a significant number still fall through the cracks due to a lack of coordinated case management. Without comprehensive follow-up, people with severe mental illness or substance use disorders often cycle between emergency care and the streets, unable to secure long-term stability. Complicating matters is a tangled web of government oversight. Multiple agencies and jurisdictions share responsibility for homelessness programs. Yet overlapping roles and bureaucratic red tape slow the rollout of new initiatives. This fragmentation often results in inconsistent service availability depending on location, leaving many without reliable support. The challenges facing the homeless in Arizona reflect systemic weaknesses rather than isolated failures. As demand grows, it's clear that short-term fixes won't suffice. Without streamlining administration, increasing funding, and fostering stronger collaboration between public and private sectors, the social safety net risks unraveling further. Next, we turn to the political landscape that shapes these outcomes, exploring how fragmented policies and partisan divisions are impacting efforts to address homelessness in Arizona. Politics versus homelessness in Arizona. Political responses to Arizona's growing homelessness crisis reveal a deeply divided landscape. While programs like the Arizona Housing Fund and various local pilot initiatives show promise, their overall impact remains limited due to their small scale and fragmented nature. These efforts, though well-intentioned, struggle to keep pace with the rapid increase of people experiencing homelessness across the state. Meanwhile, some cities such as Scottsdale and Mesa have taken a more punitive approach by passing ordinances that ban sleeping in public spaces. These policies often result in the displacement of vulnerable individuals, pushing them into more isolated and dangerous areas where access to essential services is even scarcer. Critics argue that such measures criminalize homelessness rather than addressing its root causes, further marginalizing those already struggling. At the state legislature level, ideological divisions further complicate efforts to develop cohesive solutions. On one side, advocates push for the expansion of Housing First programs, increased funding for affordable housing, and stronger tenant protections, policies shown to offer long-term relief and cost savings. On the other side, opponents express concern about rising government spending, fears of fostering dependency, and debates over the appropriate role of state authority. This partisan gridlock leads to policy stagnation, leaving local agencies and nonprofits in a difficult position as they try to implement meaningful reforms. The patchwork of programs and inconsistent support hampers the state's ability to effectively respond to the urgent needs of the homeless in Arizona. Despite these challenges, pockets of progress exist. Understanding these political dynamics is essential before exploring some of the key programs and models that have demonstrated real potential in addressing homelessness statewide. Next, we will examine these initiatives and their impacts in greater detail. Promising support programs addressing homelessness in Arizona. Among the efforts to tackle the growing crisis of homelessness in Arizona, several programs stand out for their targeted and compassionate approaches. One notable initiative is Project Haven, which focuses specifically on providing stable housing solutions for elderly individuals experiencing homelessness. This vulnerable group faces harsh conditions, especially under Arizona's extreme heat, making dedicated support critical. Alongside programs like Project Haven, outreach teams play a vital role in connecting unsheltered individuals with temporary shelter, medical care, and personalized case management. These teams work tirelessly to bridge the gap between the streets and available services, often engaging with people who have slipped through the cracks of traditional support systems. Perhaps the most promising approach gaining traction statewide is the Housing First model. Unlike conventional methods that require individuals to meet sobriety or employment criteria before receiving housing, Housing First prioritizes immediate access to safe, stable housing as the foundation for recovery. Cities such as Houston have reported reductions in homelessness by over 60% thanks to this method. While these programs offer hope and tangible results, they still face limitations in scale and funding. As the number of homeless in Arizona continues to climb, understanding these models' successes and shortcomings is essential. This leads us to the critical challenges and complex issues Arizona must address to build a more effective, sustainable response. Challenges and the road ahead for Arizona's homeless crisis. Arizona faces mounting challenges as its homelessness crisis grows, and the current system is struggling to keep up with the rising demand. Shelters and support programs are overwhelmed, unable to provide adequate resources for the increasing number of people living without stable housing. One of the most urgent dangers is Arizona's extreme heat. For those homeless in Arizona, temperatures soaring well above 110 degrees Fahrenheit are not just uncomfortable, they can be deadly. Without proper shelter, exposure to such harsh conditions poses severe health risks, including heat stroke and dehydration. Addressing this crisis requires fundamental changes in housing policy and urban planning. Outdated zoning laws limit the construction of affordable and flexible housing options like modular homes, tiny houses, and accessory dwelling units that could quickly provide safe shelter. Reforming these policies would open the door to innovative solutions and more diverse housing choices. Public-private partnerships also need a boost. Offering tax incentives and other financial incentives could attract developers to invest in affordable housing projects. Such collaboration is critical to expand housing availability and keep up with demand. Moreover, housing solutions must go beyond just a roof, integrating essential health services, including mental health care, addiction treatment, and job training, into housing programs ensures individuals receive the comprehensive support necessary for long. Finally, society's perspective on housing must shift. Viewing housing as a basic human right rather than merely a commodity will help galvanize political will and public support for effective solutions. What do you think is the most urgent priority in solving Arizona's homelessness crisis? Your thoughts matter as this conversation moves forward. These challenges are just the beginning. Next, we will explore the broader systemic issues and the complex factors that deepen Arizona's homelessness crisis. Looking ahead, future forecast and call to action. Without urgent changes, the number of homeless in Arizona could exceed 20,000 by 2028, a staggering figure that signals a deepening crisis. Several factors are fueling this rise. Soaring temperatures creating harsher living conditions, an increasing number of evictions pushing more families into the streets, and stagnant wages that fail to keep up with rising living costs. This trajectory is not inevitable, but it demands decisive political will and strategic investment. Tackling this crisis requires coordinated efforts across all levels of government, nonprofits, and the private sector. Expanding affordable housing, strengthening social services, and protecting tenants from unfair evictions must be prioritized to reverse the trend. Arizona stands at a crossroads. With the right policies and community support, it has the potential to become a model for people-centered urban planning, where housing is recognized as a fundamental right, and every individual has access to safe, stable shelter. But time is running out. How ready are we as a society to commit to meaningful change and invest in a future where homelessness is no longer a defining reality? As we consider these urgent needs, the next discussion will dive deeper into the systemic barriers and political challenges that complicate effective solutions to homelessness in Arizona. Conclusion. A civilized society is truly measured by how it cares for its most vulnerable. Housing is not a luxury. It's the foundation of health, education, safety, and opportunity. Without a stable home, these basics fall apart. So, how many more lives must unravel on our streets before we have the courage to build something better? The homeless in Arizona are more than statistics. They are people whose stories demand our attention and action. Homeless in America isn't just a phrase. It's a call to change that cannot be ignored any longer. Arizona stands at a crossroads, and the time to act is now. We want to hear from you. What do you think is the most important step to address homelessness? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we can start building a better future.